right.
Alrighty.
Breath. Relax.
Okay.
Luckily, we don't have to run around or do anything like that. Okay. So this is the first section here.
Okay.
We want to understand the decisions you made in planning for this lesson and how it fits into the unit and year. How does this lesson connect to and build on students' prior skills and knowledge? What was taught before this lesson and what will come after it? Discuss the sequence of lessons that surround this one lesson.
So this lesson is part of a more or less 8-week unit on weather, and prior to this narrative, the kids had a lot of time to work with a lot of expository and informational text. So we did a water cycle input chart. They've had a lot of chants about different types of weather, about the water cycle, and then just last week, we did a shared read about wind and different types of storms. So then this week, I wanted to bring in the narrative piece and have them relate all of that expository information to a narrative and how it would look.
Excellent. Can you do me a
Sure.
favor and sorry. Could you look directly into the camera and just state your name and the class you just taught?
Sure. My name is Liz Barnum, and I just taught kindergarten.
Excellent. What school is this?
This is Roger Corbett Elementary.
All right. Thank you. All right. So you don't have to look at the camera. Pretend it's not there. All right. This question pertains to the text. Is the text used in this lesson part of a sequence of texts designed to build skills and knowledge? If so, please give examples of other texts that form this sequence.
So like I just said, the students had a lot of time to work with a lot of expository and informational texts. They did this all the way across the curriculum. They've been working with writing about weather. During guided reading, the kids have been reading books, both fiction and nonfiction, about different types of weather or the water cycle. It's not particularly a sequence, it's just a narrative that we could tie into the unit of weather.
All right. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the standards. Talk about the standards targeted in this lesson. What did you do to make the lesson reflect the full intent of that standard?
So the focus standard for this lesson was for the students to be able to ask and answer questions about key details in a text. This text is really complex. The words are pretty difficult for a kindergartner, but I tried to just continue pushing them and continue scaffolding and trying to give them an opportunity to be able to answer the questions appropriately or successfully, either by partner talking or, by us highlighting some of the words on there. But prior to that, the read aloud, I want to add that we do this every single time that we read a story. We go over all of the other standards as well, like identifying the author and illustrator, their purpose, being familiar with the characters, the setting, and even the genre, which the genre was fiction, but it was also written in a poem, so we want to kind of throw in that text layering there, so where the kids are seeing a lot of different types of text.
All right. Which of the core action indicators do you think this lesson best exemplifies and why?
Well, one, obviously, because the kids are working with tasks and questions that relate strictly to the text, but then also two, which is that the students had a lot of opportunity to really look deeper and more closely into what the author was really saying. And what I was looking for with that was, for the students not to just say that Charlie McButton was sad, but, that the author described that Charlie was filled with dread or that he clung to his chair. I was looking for specific lines or vocabulary from the text. Does that work?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Section 1 is done. Oh, excuse me, my nose is just... Okay. here we
Do
go.
you need tissue?
Oh, I'm fine.
Okay.
It's been a problem for this week. We are interested in how the shifts required by the CCSS are being incorporated into your instruction. Discuss how this lesson illustrates the shifts required by the CCSS.
This lesson?
Discuss how this lesson illustrates the shifts required by the CCSS.
So I think the big focus is that, the kids are reading a balance of fiction, nonfiction, expository, informational, and then the narrative piece. And also, they're doing that across the curriculum, and we want them to really use that academic vocabulary across the board. We want them to bring it into all aspects of their writing, their reading, and math, practicing that accountable talk also with each other, being able to build a place in kindergarten where the kids feel like they can turn to each other and talk and agree or disagree, but also fail and be okay with correcting that.
All right. How did you teach the content of this lesson or this text prior to the CCSS? What is the same and what is different?
I did not teach this prior to the CCSS. I think that as a whole, as a community, we were just not putting the kids up to the high standards that we are now. And now that we can, I think really the beauty is that we can see that the kids really can grasp a deep understanding of the text, even though the complexity is really high. I have, a lot of ELL learners, the majority of my class, but with the support of the illustrations, a little bit of my help, a little bit of help from each other, they're really learning to just kind of dig into it and work through it and work through it and repeat until they gain an understanding.
Excellent. All right. Next section here. Student engagement is crucial to the work of the CCSS. We want to understand how you ensure that all students had the opportunity to productively engage in the work of the lesson. How did you or do you support all students in working with grade level text? Do you provide scaffolding for students below grade level so they can read grade level text? And how do you create opportunities for students who are advanced to engage more deeply with grade level or above grade level text?
Okay, so for this particular text, all of the students started on the same playing field, as in it's the first time that they had read it. I tried to scaffold it by rereading many, many times so that the kids who maybe weren't getting it the first time or the second time had plenty of opportunities. And then also I do a lot of total physical response. So I do it with the vocabulary or even with the standard. The kids have motions and kind of mnemonic devices that help them remember what they're learning and really kind of feel ownership of that. I also, like I said before, try and create an environment where they feel safe and they feel like they can share and really kind of talk to one another. I try to do a lot of accountable talk, so the kids are supposed to be ready to answer at any given moment. They can add on to each other's answers if they want. They don't necessarily have to, but they can agree or disagree. In their vocabulary journal, I let, a student who is a little bit lower, they can just kind of orally explain to me, and I will kind of talk them through their answers. Maybe someone who is at a more medium level, they can copy down because they had that chart as a reference and just a sketch. And then a more advanced or high student could use that line or vocabulary word in a sentence and just take it further from there.
All right.
Did I answer the question?
That was it.
Okay.
That was good. That was perfect.
Okay.
And that's a tough one. Usually I break that one up in two, but I knew you
You did. Okay.
All right. So how do you know the students were able to successfully respond to the text-dependent questions and tasks with precision? Did students acquire the literacy skills addressed in this lesson? What did you or do you do for students who do not acquire the literacy skills addressed in this lesson?
So my focus was for the students to be able to, ask and answer questions about the details in the text. Could they do that? I think the majority of them at this point can. I can see that because they could explicitly find lines that I was, looking for from the text, or when they went to their journals, they had already started their illustrations, and the question was how Charlie reacted to the power going out. If the students were illustrating or writing something totally off the wall, then I would know that they weren't really understanding what I had asked them. In any case, if they weren't fully understanding, I was trying to give the students an opportunity to correct that, or go to the chart and find an answer, or always reread the story, and we can always revisit and reteach the concept of how Charlie reacted if the student doesn't understand it.
All right. You doing good?
Yeah.
Yeah? Because we're on the home stretch right now.
Okay.
This is the best part. All right, so this one is addressing core action 3. Which behaviors from core action 3 did the students best exemplify in this lesson? What actions have you taken as a teacher to make that happen?
Well, the questions were challenging for the students. I think even just the question itself uses the word react. How did Charlie react? And the kids have to have some sort of knowledge about what that word means. React. How did he respond? How did he feel? How did he look? What kinds of things did he do? So we first kind of had to talk about that, and the kids were able to persevere with that. I just continued to ask them, okay, now how did he react? Did he act sad? Okay, tell me again. Go back to the text and tell me a specific line that he used. They also had an opportunity then later to process that with each other, and then on the active board we were able to highlight, and then again on the chart, and then again finally independently in their vocabulary journals.
That works. All right, the last 2 questions.
Okay.
And you probably won't need your notes for these, but
Okay.
let's see. Great instructors are continuously learning. We want to understand what you celebrated in this lesson and what you'd improve upon. Reflecting on the lesson, what worked particularly well and what might you do differently?
Well, I'm kind of on the home stretch with this lesson. We're getting to the end. I think what's worked really well is... Oop! Mic down.
It's pretty robust.
Can I just set it down?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think really what worked well in this lesson was giving the kids just an opportunity to read it and explore with it, because when I first looked at it, I thought, this book maybe is a little bit complex. Maybe the kids can't handle it. So I really was excited when I did the first read and then the second read, and the kids just totally got it. The words are difficult and the lingo is just kind of tricky, but the kids totally got it. So I'm really excited about that. And then specifically today, with all of the repetition and kind of reiterating what the focus was, the majority of the kids did respond correctly in their journals about how Charlie reacted. If I had to go back and do something a little bit different, I think that I would have broke it up a little bit differently. So maybe, when we were highlighting on the active board, I think that I would have split that and then building the chart into 2 different days. So what we've done before is if we're highlighting or sort of annotating a text, the kids can get their own copy. So I think I would have done that. I would have given them their own copy of that page where they could highlight and kind of take notes and maybe solidify their understanding a little bit more, and then go into making the poster and then sending them to their independent work where they actually wrote their response. I think that because of their age, sometimes if I do too much, it's a little bit hard for them to stick with me and kind of stay engaged.
Excellent. And the last one. Were there any surprises or unexpected student behaviors or reactions?
Yeah, I think that the kids were a little bit busier than they usually are. They were kind of amped up, and maybe even myself, I was a little bit nervous, but I think that, maybe towards the end, they started to come back around and act a little bit more normal. I really didn't expect them to act like that. I thought that they were so excited about this the whole time, but I mean, it's natural for them to want to look back at, the situation, but well.
Excellent.
Yeah.
That was